Most people avoid this truth, but it decides everything. If your voice doesn't project clarity, strength, and certainty, people won't trust you. And if they don't trust you, they won't follow you, and they won't move because of what you say. You might have real experience, strong ideas, and genuine value. But if your thinking and your speaking don't sound like that value, the world will never fully recognize what you're capable of. A lot of people still assume communication is about sounding smooth, confident, and polished. But influence isn't built on smoothness. Influence is built on clear thinking. It's built on calm authority. It's built on choosing words that are strong and exact. It's built on controlling your tone, your breath, your pace, your timing, and knowing precisely when to speak and when silence should do the work. Most people get trapped in the same exhausting cycle. They speak before their thoughts are ready. Then they explain again because they weren't clear the first time. Then they add more words because they're afraid they'll be misunderstood. They speak a lot, but they don't speak sharply. They talk for a long time, but they don't move anyone. They speak hoping to be heard instead of speaking with the intention to. Leaders operate differently. They think first, then they speak. They say less, but what they say lands harder. Their words are tools, sharp, deliberate, necessary. Their voice stays calm and steady, and that steadiness commands attention. They use silence instead of fearing it. And people act, not because they're pushed, but because they feel respect. This difference has nothing to do with talent, intelligence, or natural ability. It comes down to four pillars: clarity of thought, authority in tone, precision in language, and timing and delivery. Master these four, and every conversation becomes a chance to lead. Miss even one, and your words lose their weight immediately. What you're about to hear isn't a motivational speech designed to sound inspiring. This is training. It's a sharpening of the mind, a refinement of the voice, a rebuild of how you show up in the world. You'll learn how to organize your thoughts, control your voice, select powerful words, manage your emotional tone, structure your message, speak in a way that makes people act, and read the energy in a room so you speak at the moment your words matter most. Along the way, you'll develop 10 essential abilities for thinking, speaking, and influencing like a true professional. Each chapter will give you a challenge to face, a principle to hold, a visual image to remember, a practical shift to apply, reflection prompts to realign, and a closing line that hits like steel. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need perfection to earn respect. You don't need performance to create influence. You need clear speech, sharp thinking, and real authority. Step into this journey with calm focus and the willingness to elevate how you think, how you speak, and how you move others. You don't need more. You need clarity and strength. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Think clearly before you speak. Before they speak, most people do it backwards. They talk first and think later. And that one habit quietly destroys their influence. When your thoughts are scattered, your words scatter. When your mind is foggy, your message becomes fog. When your ideas are half-formed, your impact becomes half-felt. This chapter starts with a truth many people avoid. You cannot speak clearly until you learn to think clearly. Clarity is the foundation of every communicator, leader, and influential voice you admire. Many believe communication begins the moment you open your mouth. But in reality, communication begins in the silence before the first word. the space where you collect your thoughts, set your intention, and decide what truly matters. It begins with clarity, inner clarity, long before sound touches the air. You've seen it. People who speak endlessly but say almost nothing. They orbit their point, using extra words to cover the gaps created by unclear thinking. They speed up because they feel uncertain. They over-explain because the message is weak. And somewhere inside that spiral, they lose the room. Here's the hard truth. Length is not strength. A long message isn't automatically a powerful one. Clarity is. Most people don't fail to communicate because they aren't intelligent. They fail because they try to organize their thoughts while they're speaking. The mind isn't designed to think, filter, refine, and deliver perfectly at the same time. That's why people ramble. That's why they repeat themselves. That's why they sound less confident than they really are. Clarity isn't a gift, it's a discipline. If your mind is like a cluttered desk, random notes, distractions, emotional noise, your speech will reflect that chaos. But when the desk is clean, the priority is obvious. The idea becomes sharp, and the delivery becomes purposeful. Picture this. Someone asks you a question in a meeting. Most people panic internally and rush to answer, afraid a pause will make them look unprepared. But rushing leads to over-talking, over-explaining, and under-delivering. The person who pauses, even briefly, gains power, not loses it. Because the pause is where clarity lives. The pause is where leadership begins. Great communicators don't speak faster. They speak from a calmer, more organized mind. They breathe, gather the essence, and deliver the one sentence that matters. And because that sentence is clean, people listen. Think of ideas like water. When you stir it, it turns cloudy. When you let it settle, it becomes clear. Your thoughts work the same way, but clarity asks for something many people resist: slowing down. Slowing down doesn't mean thinking less. It means thinking better. It gives your mind the space to separate signal from noise. One of the strongest skills you can build is filtering your thoughts before they become words. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to say? Remove the extra. Clear out the emotional debris, find the core, and only then speak from that center. When you speak from clarity instead of pressure, something shifts. Your voice steadies. Your pacing becomes intentional. Your ideas land with weight. People lean in instead of tuning out, because in every workplace, every conversation, every room, clarity earns respect. Here's something professionals learn. If you can't express your point in one clean sentence, your thinking isn't finished yet. The single sentence is the test. When you can name the idea with simplicity and precision, you've reached true understanding. That one sentence mastery separates leaders from talkers. Clear thinkers handle tough questions confidently because they know the essence before they expand into details. They don't hide behind complexity. They don't stuff silence with unnecessary padding. They go straight to the heart, and that directness is magnetic. Clarity isn't only intellectual, it's emotional too. Fear is one of the biggest barriers to clear thought. Fear of being judged, fear of being wrong, fear of sounding unprepared. Those fears push people into overtalking and underthinking. They rush, hoping speed will hide insecurity. But insecurity gets louder when clarity gets weaker. The safest way to speak is to think clearly first. When you know your core message, you don't fear silence. You don't fear judgment. You don't fear interruption. You speak from grounded intention, not panic. Another major shift happens when you separate what you feel from what you mean. Feelings create noise. Meaning creates clarity. You can feel frustrated or pressured and still speak with precision. Once you recognize the difference, you take your control back. Before you speak, ask yourself, what do I truly want to communicate? What is the simplest, clearest version of this? Am I speaking from clarity or from emotion? These questions act like a compass. They pull you back to direction and purpose. Clear thinking feels like leadership because people naturally trust someone who knows what they're saying and why they're saying it. They feel safe. They feel guided. They feel the conversation moving somewhere meaningful. That is influence, guiding someone else's thinking through your own clarity. Clarity sharpens your message. Clarity strengthens your presence. Clarity deepens credibility. Clarity becomes your signature. In the professional world, people decide quickly whether you're capable, prepared, confident, and trustworthy based on how clearly you express your ideas. Clarity creates professionalism. Confusion destroys it. And the best part? Clarity can always be trained. You can practice it every time you speak. You can refine it every time you think. You can strengthen it every time you choose intention over impulse. The more disciplined you become at thinking before speaking, the more influential you become without forcing it. Your words will land with precision. Your ideas will make sense. Your presence will feel stronger. Your confidence will be visible. Because clarity isn't just a communication skill. Clarity is an identity. Clarity is how you move through the world with purpose. Clarity is where all influence begins. Speak clearly, but first, think clearly. Chapter 2. Speak with calm authority, rewritten. There's a kind of voice that makes people pause and pay attention. And it isn't the loudest voice. It isn't the most energetic voice. It isn't the most charismatic voice either. It's the calm voice, the steady voice, the voice of someone who leads without needing to push. Calm authority is one of the most powerful communication skills you can develop today. Not because it dominates people, but because it stabilizes them. Not because it intimidates, but because it reassures. Not because it demands attention, but because it naturally earns it. Most people think authority comes from turning up the volume, speaking faster, or adding intensity. But intensity without clarity creates pressure, not confidence. And volume without intention creates noise, not leadership. Here's what professionals learn sooner or later. Authority isn't loudness. Authority is presence. And presence begins with calm. You've heard people who speak so quickly they stumble over their own words. Their pitch rises, their speed increases, and their confidence visibly drops. Even if the content is correct, the delivery makes it fragile. A shaky voice can make a strong idea sound weak. A rush voice can make clarity feel confusing. A tense voice can make a good point sound defensive. But a calm voice changes everything. The same idea delivered with calmness suddenly sounds grounded. The same message sounds credible. The same speaker feels trustworthy because calm signals control. Calm signals confidence. Calm signals someone who is choosing their response instead of reacting. When your voice stays calm, you speak from steadiness, not urgency. Your breathing deepens. Your pace slows just enough for people to follow you. Your tone drops into a range that feels confident instead of strained. And your presence expands without you needing to force anything. People don't follow the loudest person in the room. They follow the most stable one. This becomes even more true when the stakes rise. Presentations, interviews, conflict, negotiation, high-pressure conversations. When emotions rise, most people speed up, tighten their throat, and start over-explaining. They talk like they're trying to outrun discomfort. But rushing doesn't solve discomfort, it magnifies it. Calmness does the opposite. Calm absorbs tension. Calm slows the moment down. Calm tells the room, this is manageable. And if you are manageable, the situation feels manageable too. That is influence. Calm authority starts with your breath. Your breath is the base of your tone, your pacing, your emotional steadiness, and your vocal strength. When breathing is shallow, the voice becomes thin and shaky. When breathing is rushed, your words become rushed. When breath is uncontrolled, presence becomes unstable. But when your breath is steady, everything aligns. Your tone settles, your pace becomes confident, your thoughts slow down enough for clarity to form, and your presence becomes intentional. Before you say anything, a calm voice communicates something powerful. I am in control of myself. And the moment people feel that, their trust increases. Think of leaders you respect, whether in business, media, coaching, or public life. They rarely rush. They don't need to raise their voice. They don't leak emotion into every sentence. They speak at a steady pace, and their tone carries weight without force. That tone isn't random. It's trained. It's discipline. Calm authority doesn't mean you have no emotion. It means emotion doesn't hijack your message. It means you can feel pressure, fear, excitement, or tension, and still speak with control. Your voice is the billboard of your nervous system. When your system is chaotic, your voice reveals it. When your system is calm, your voice reflects it, and people trust the person whose presence calms them. There is serious power in being the stillest person in a chaotic room. A calm speaker gives people time to absorb meaning. A calm speaker lets words breathe. A calm speaker uses silence intentionally, not as emptiness, but as a frame that strengthens the message. A calm speaker does not fear pauses, because pauses signal confidence. Silence isn't a gap. Silence is emphasis. If you rush because you fear silence, your authority drops. But if you pause before a key point on purpose, you gain gravity. Your words settle, your presence deepens, your influence expands. And here's something most people miss. Calm authority also changes how your listener feels about themselves. When you speak calmly, they don't feel pressured to respond fast. They don't feel overwhelmed. They feel respected. They feel safe. They feel like there's room for them in the conversation too. People always respect the communicator who creates emotional. One of the strongest signs of calm authority is staying composed when challenged. Anyone can sound confident when everything is easy. True authority shows up when you're questioned, interrupted, or disagreed with. A reactive speaker becomes defensive. A calm speaker becomes deliberate. They don't throw words, they choose them. They pause long enough to regain control. They respond with clarity instead of emotion. And because they stay centered while others lose balance, their influence grows. Calm authority isn't passive. It isn't weak. It isn't emotionless. It is intentional, focused, controlled, and deeply confident. It communicates without saying it. I don't need force to be heard. I don't need speed to sound smart. I don't need volume to matter. Your calm becomes credibility. Your steadiness becomes strength. Your presence becomes influence. And the more you master calm authority, The more people trust your voice, respect your leadership, and follow your direction, not because they're pressured, but because they genuinely want to. Speak calmly, speak steadily, speak from the center, not from panic. That's how your voice becomes powerful. That's how your presence becomes unforgettable. That's how you begin to influence like a true professional. Chapter 3. Use words that carry weight, rewritten. Words are never neutral. Every word you choose either strengthens your message or weakens it. It either builds credibility or quietly erodes it. It either moves people forward or leaves them untouched. Most people speak with language that carries no weight at all. They soften their sentences without realizing it. Maybe, sort of, kind of, I think. Basically, these words drain power from ideas before they ever reach the listener. And the worst part? People usually have no idea they're doing it. Here's the reality every strong communicator eventually learns. Weak language creates weak influence. Strong language creates strong influence. If your words lack weight, your presence cannot carry authority. People measure confidence through language. Your word choice becomes the lens through which they judge your credibility. Soft language makes you feel unsure. Precise language makes you feel powerful. People don't just listen to what you say, they listen to how decisively you say it. Compare these two statements. I think this might be the right direction. Here's the direction we should take. Same idea, completely different impact. Messages wrapped in uncertainty rarely inspire action. Messages grounded in clarity command attention immediately. You can feel the difference the moment you hear it. Strong communicators don't rely on volume to sound confident. Their power comes from precision. They use clean, direct, intentional language. They remove clutter. They speak with purpose. Weak communicators lean on filler words. Strong communicators replace those fillers with clarity. Your words are tools, and like any tool, their sharpness determines the quality of the work. A dull tool creates messy results. A sharp tool creates clean impact. Your influence depends on how sharp your verbal tools are. Think of a carpenter trying to build with a dull blade. The effort is exhausting, and the result is sloppy. Give that same carpenter a sharp tool and everything changes. The work becomes efficient, clean, and precise. Your words function the same way. Weak language forces you to work harder to be understood. Strong language delivers the message instantly. One of the biggest communication mistakes is believing that more words equal more clarity. They don't. More words usually mean more noise. People don't remember long explanations. They remember clear statements. This is what matters. This is the decision. This is the next step. These sentences carry weight because they remove doubt. They signal leadership. They signal clarity. They signal confidence. Most people weaken their message because they're afraid of being too direct. They fear judgment. They fear commitment. They fear taking a clear position. So they bury their ideas under soft language. And the more they soften, the less visible they become. Here's the truth. Directness is not rudeness. Directness is clarity, and clarity is a gift. People don't want rambling. They don't want verbal padding. They want understanding. Strong words make understanding possible. When your message is clear, people know how to respond. When it's vague, people hesitate. Confusion kills action. Clarity creates it. This is why strong communicators remove filler words. Fillers are verbal crutches. They help you stand, but they stop you from walking with strength. When you remove them, your message stands taller. Your voice sounds cleaner. Your presence feels grounded. Powerful communication isn't about complicated vocabulary. It's about intentional vocabulary. It's about choosing words that deliver meaning with precision. Shorter sentences sharpen your message. Removing extras strengthens it. Speaking with intention cleans it. But there's something deeper at play. Your language shapes your identity. If you speak with uncertainty long enough, you begin thinking uncertain thoughts. If you constantly say, "I guess," you begin to second-guess yourself. If you live in maybe, you become a maybe person. Your words shape your behavior more than you realize. And the reverse is also true. When you speak with conviction, your thinking follows. When your language becomes clear, your decisions become clearer. When your words sharpen, your confidence rises. Your vocabulary is the thermostat of your personal power. Raise the language, and your identity rises with it. Strong communicators understand this. They don't leave language to chance. They treat every sentence as if it matters, because it does. Your word choice affects how people collaborate with you, how they trust you, how they respond to your ideas. It influences your presence in meetings, your leverage in negotiations, and your credibility in high-pressure moments. Words are not decoration, words are leverage. When you use language that carries weight, people remember you. They remember the sentence that landed. They remember the clarity you brought. They remember how grounded they felt listening to you. And in a chaotic world, clarity is what people crave most. Strong language doesn't mean aggression. It doesn't mean harshness. It means intention. It means firmness. It means cleanliness. Speaking with weight means choosing confidence over hesitation, choosing clarity over confusion, choosing direction over avoidance. People respect communicators who know what they're saying. People follow communicators who know where they're going. And people trust communicators whose words carry weight. Your words can strengthen your identity. Your words can strengthen your confidence. Your words can strengthen your influence. The moment you choose clarity over fear, your entire presence rises. Meetings become sharper. Conversations become stronger. Leadership becomes visible. Your message becomes memorable. Influence begins with language. Confidence begins with language. Presence begins with language. Speak with words that carry weight. Speak with words that reflect who you are becoming. Speak with words that move people, not because they are loud, but because they are clear. Chapter 4. Structure your message like a leader, rewritten. Leadership isn't only about what you say, it's about the structure underneath your words. Structure turns ideas into direction. Without it, even smart ideas dissolve into noise. Every conversation becomes easier when your message has a strong spine, something solid enough to stand on its own. Most people struggle to communicate not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack structure. They jump into stories without making a point. They add details before context. They talk for minutes before arriving at the idea that should have come first. The result? The message becomes blurry. And when the message loses clarity, confidence collapses with it. Here's the reality. If your message has no structure, your influence has no strength. People don't follow scattered thinking. They follow direction. A well-structured message works like a map. It tells your listener where you're going, why it matters, and what they should focus on. Without that map, your audience is left guessing, and guessing leads to confusion. Confusion destroys trust. When people don't understand your message, they don't assume the topic is complex. They assume you are unclear. And unclear communication makes people hesitant, doubtful, and disengaged. That's why leaders always speak with structure. A strong message has an anchor, a central idea that holds everything together. It opens with clarity, builds with support, and ends with direction. It guides the listener instead of letting them wander. Most importantly, structure makes people feel safe. Safe in the presence of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Structure isn't restrictive. Structure is freeing. It removes chaos, confusion, and unnecessary explanation. It allows your message to stand on its own. Picture walking into a meeting without structure. You start talking, you bounce between ideas, you revisit details. By the end, even you aren't fully sure what your point was. Your listeners certainly aren't. Now imagine the opposite. You enter with a clear point. You know why it matters. You have one example to support it. You know exactly how you'll end. The difference is unmistakable. One version sounds scattered, the other sounds like leadership. Great communicators understand that structure builds confidence for the speaker and the listener. When you know where your message is going, your voice steadies, your pacing smooths out, your delivery becomes intentional instead of reactive. People trust those who communicate with direction. People follow those who speak with intention. A structured message always begins with the point. Not a story, not a warm-up, not background noise. The point. Leading with your point anchors the listener immediately. They know what matters. They know what the conversation is about. They know where you're heading, and because they're grounded, they're ready to follow. A clear opening point is like turning on the lights. Everything else becomes easier to see. Once the point is established, the next step is support. Support is the context, reasoning, or example that proves your point. Support turns a statement into authority. It transforms opinion into credibility. People don't just want to know what you think. They want to know why you think it. But strong support requires restraint. Too many examples dilute impact. Too many details overwhelm attention. Great communicators give just enough to illuminate the idea, never enough to drown it. After the point and the support comes something most people forget entirely. The pause. The pause is what locks the message into memory. It gives a listener time to absorb meaning. It adds seriousness. It signals intention. A pause tells the room, this matters. Messages without pauses feel rushed. Messages with pauses feel meaningful. Finally, strong communicators close with direction. Direction tells people what happens next. It turns understanding into movement. It prevents your message from drifting away once the conversation ends. Direction is leadership in its clearest form. When you tell people the next step, you're not being aggressive. You're being clear. You're being responsible. You're turning conversation into progress. A message without direction leaves people unsure. A message with direction leaves people empowered. This entire structure, point, support, pause, direction, sounds simple because it is. And simplicity is the backbone of powerful communication. The world's best communicators aren't complicated. They're disciplined. They know what they're saying. They know why they're saying it. They know how they'll land the point, and they know what happens after it lands. Leadership is predictable in the best way. People want guidance. They want clarity. They want to feel that the person speaking is thinking with purpose. Structure gives them that. Structure is confidence. Structure is clarity. Structure is authority. Structure is leadership. When your message has shape, your presence has impact. People listen differently. They respond differently. They remember what you say. If you want your communication to feel powerful, give it structure. If you want your message to land harder, give it structure. If you want people to decide, trust, act, and follow, give them a message that leads them step by step. Every conversation is a chance to guide someone somewhere. If you don't choose the path, the message goes nowhere. But when you choose the path clearly, the message becomes a journey people willingly take. Structure your message like a leader, and you'll influence like one. Chapter 5. Speak to make people act. Rewritten. Understanding alone does not create action. Agreement does not equal movement. Nodding does not mean commitment. And if your words don't change behavior, you're not influencing. You're only talking. This is one of the biggest misconceptions in communication. Many people believe that clarity is the finish line, but clarity without action is an incomplete message. You've seen this happen countless times. Someone presents a smart idea. The room agrees. Everyone says it sounds important, and then nothing changes. Ideas don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they never turn into motion. That's the difference between a communicator and an influencer. A communicator explains. An influencer activates. A communicator shares information. An influencer creates momentum. Your words shouldn't only help people understand, they should help people move. Action is the heartbeat of influence. If your message doesn't shift what someone thinks, feels, or does, it hasn't fulfilled its purpose. Most people don't speak to create action. They speak to fill space. They speak to sound productive. They speak to be understood. They speak because silence feels uncomfortable. But speaking without movement is just noise. The moment you decide to speak with the intention to trigger action, everything changes. Your tone becomes sharper. Your structure tightens. Your sentences grow cleaner. Your message becomes focused, because now you're communicating for impact, not for comfort. Action-driven communication begins with one critical question. What do I want people to do next? Not generally understand, not consider, not think about later. Do. People don't act when the next step is vague. They don't act when the next step feels overwhelming. And they don't act when the next step is buried under paragraphs of explanation. People move when the next step is clear, specific, and doable. Think about every strong leader you've ever watched. They never end a message with, "So, yeah." They never leave you guessing what happens next. Their communication always closes with direction. Direction is influence. Direction turns intention into momentum. Direction transforms conversation into progress. Here's something most people overlook. People want direction more than they want information. Information informs. Direction guides. And human beings naturally follow guidance when it's delivered with confidence. This doesn't mean controlling people. It means being clear. The clearer your direction, the easier it is for people to follow you. Confusion creates hesitation. Clarity creates movement. Most hesitation exists because the next step feels too big. Leadership is the skill of shrinking the step until it feels possible. When the step feels manageable, resistance drops. When resistance drops, motion begins. And once motion starts, momentum builds on its own. The difference between "someday we should" and "do this now" often decides whether anything happens at all. Your role as a communicator is to remove friction. When you speak, imagine guiding someone forward, calmly, firmly, without pushing or dragging. People don't want to be forced, but they do want to be led. To create action, you must understand emotional energy. People act when they feel urgency, not stress. Stress freezes, urgency activates. Urgency comes from clarity, timing, and direction. When your message explains what matters, why it matters now, and exactly what to do next, momentum forms naturally. People don't want to figure out the next move. They want it made clear for them. That's why language matters. Weak language kills momentum. Strong language ignites it. I think we should maybe consider this soon. Creates nothing. Here's what we do next. Creates motion. People don't need a long argument. They need a clear path. They need to feel your conviction. They need to sense that you believe the next step is right. Your certainty becomes their courage. When you speak with confidence, you lend people the confidence they're missing. You give them permission to move. You become the voice that turns hesitation into action. That is influence. Here's the emotional truth behind action-based communication. People are afraid to move alone. They fear choosing wrong. They fear responsibility if things fail. Your clarity becomes their safety. When you say, "This is the next step," you remove their fear of deciding. You help them move forward with confidence. You become the person they trust to guide them through uncertainty. Influencers don't just speak clearly, they speak directionally. Every idea leads somewhere. Every message ends with movement. Every conversation closes with purpose. Nothing is left floating. Nothing is left unfinished. Nothing is unclear. That's how leaders communicate. And here's something powerful. The clearer your direction, the more people follow you, even if they disagreed at first. Clarity persuades, certainty persuades, direction persuades, confusion never does. If you want people to act, end with a decisive closing line. This is what we do next. Here's our next move. The next step starts now. These statements communicate authority without aggression, leadership without force, movement without pressure. Action-driven communication isn't about drama. It's about decisiveness. It's about purpose. It's about guiding people toward results. You don't need volume. You don't need intensity. You need intention. Your words should leave people thinking, "I know exactly what to do next." That clarity is influence. That certainty is leadership. That energy moves people. When your communication ends with direction, ideas turn into action, and action turns into momentum. You become the communicator people rely on for clarity, the voice that cuts through noise, the presence that creates movement. Speak to be understood, but more importantly, speak to make people act. Chapter 6. Master your emotional tone. Your message is never just the words you choose, it's the emotional current carried inside those words. People don't only hear what you say, they feel the state you're in while saying it. And nothing exposes that state faster than your tone. Tone reveals the truth behind language. It shows whether you're confident or uncertain, grounded or overwhelmed. It tells people whether you are safe to trust or someone they need to question. Tone is your emotional signature. Most people lose influence not because they chose the wrong words, but because they delivered the right words with the wrong tone. A defensive tone can make a strong message sound insecure. A rushed tone can make an important idea feel careless. A tense tone can make a calm statement feel aggressive. Tone shapes perception before logic ever has a chance. Here's a reality many communicators resist. You can say everything correctly and still fail if your tone betrays you. Emotional tone is the bridge between intention and impact. If that bridge is unstable, the message collapses. If it's controlled, the message carries weight. That's why mastering your emotional tone is non-negotiable. Your nervous system largely controls your tone. When stress rises, the voice tightens. When anxiety appears, pitch lifts. When anger shows up, rhythm becomes sharp and fast. When insecurity takes over, sentences fade instead of landing. Your voice broadcasts your internal state, whether you want it to or not. This is why emotional grounding matters. You cannot deliver stability from an unstable mind. Tone will always reveal what you try to hide. To master tone, you must first master your emotional state. A calm mind produces a calm tone. A calm tone builds trust, and trust creates influence. The goal isn't to erase emotion. Emotion is powerful. The goal is control. Directed emotion strengthens a message. Uncontrolled emotion destroys it. Think of people you admire for their presence. They don't rush. They don't sound reactive. They don't let emotions spill into every sentence. Their tone stays grounded, even under pressure. That steadiness isn't accidental. It's practice discipline. You feel the difference immediately. A reactive speaker spikes the energy in the room. A grounded speaker stabilizes it. People instinctively trust the person who remains composed while others lose control. Tone comes from 4 places: breathing, pacing, physical tension, and internal dialogue. Shallow breath creates shaky tone. Tense muscles create tight tone. Chaotic thoughts create chaotic sound. Your inner world becomes audible. That's why the most powerful communicators speak from inner stillness. Stillness doesn't mean numbness. It means being centered. It means choosing a response instead of reacting on instinct. Tone is simply your response made audible. The moment emotion rises, frustration, pressure, fear, your tone begins to shift. Your task isn't suppression, your task is stabilization. Stability starts with awareness. You can't control what you don't notice. You must recognize when your breath shortens, when your pitch rises, when your pace speeds up. Awareness opens the door to control. Once you notice a shift, grounding comes next. Grounding is simple but powerful. Deepen your breath, slow your pace, reconnect with your intention. Grounding turns emotional turbulence into emotional clarity. Here's something most people don't realize. A slower, steadier tone sounds more confident than fast energy ever will. Speed communicates anxiety. Stability communicates authority. Authority begins with tone. A calm tone makes difficult messages easier to receive. It makes corrections feel respectful. It makes disagreement productive instead of combative. When your tone is steady, your message feels safe, and people follow voices that feel safe. In high-pressure moments, people look for emotional anchors. If your tone rises with the tension, you become part of the chaos. If your tone stays grounded, you become the solution. A steady tone is leadership expressed through sound. Mastering tone also requires emotional separation. You must learn to separate what you feel from how you speak. You can feel frustrated and still communicate calmly. You can feel challenged and still speak with control. This separation is the mark of mature communication. People respect those who hold their tone when the moment is difficult. They trust those who refuse to let emotion hijack meaning. Tone isn't just how you sound. It's who you are while speaking. Your tone communicates, I'm composed, I'm confident, I'm not rattled, I'm in control of myself. And when people sense that, trust deepens instantly. Tone is credibility. Tone is presence. Tone is character made audible. When you master your emotional tone, everything changes. Your message becomes clearer. Your leadership becomes stronger. Your influence rises naturally. The world listens differently to someone who sounds centered. You can become that person. You can develop a tone that calms instead of agitates, reassures instead of pressures, guides instead of reacts. Your emotional tone is your leadership frequency. Tune it with intention. Protect it with awareness. Strengthen it with practice. When your tone is steady, your presence becomes undeniable. And when your presence is undeniable, your influence becomes effortless. Master your emotional tone, and you master the room before a single word is spoken. Chapter 7. Build trust with precision and honesty. Trust is the currency of influence. Without it, words carry no weight. Ideas fall flat. Confidence becomes meaningless. No amount of charisma or intelligence can move people if trust is missing. Every message stands or collapses on trust. And trust is built through two things: precision and honesty. You don't earn trust by sounding perfect. You earn it by sounding real. People don't want performance. They want clarity. They don't want exaggeration. They want truth. They don't want noise. They want precision. People trust you when your words match reality, not when you oversell, not when you exaggerate, not when you perform. They trust you when your language is grounded, consistent, and accurate. Precision isn't cold. Precision is respect. It tells people, I value your time. It tells them, I know what I'm saying. It tells them, you can rely on this. Honesty, on the other hand, is the backbone of credibility. Honesty says, this is what I know. This is what I don't know. This is the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. Honesty isn't about harsh delivery. It's about transparent intention. People don't need you to be flawless. They need you to be real. They need to feel there's no hidden agenda behind your words. Honesty creates emotional safety. And when people feel safe with you, they trust your direction. They trust your recommendations. They trust your leadership. That's when influence becomes natural. Think about a time when someone lost your trust. It wasn't because they made a mistake. It was because they hid it. It wasn't because they lacked an answer. It was because they pretended they had one. It wasn't because they changed direction. It was because they refused to explain why. Dishonesty breaks trust faster than failure ever could. Now think about someone who earned your trust immediately. They were likely direct, calm, grounded. They didn't oversell or sugarcoat. They told the truth clearly and measured their words. That's precision. That's integrity. That's leadership language. Here's a principle that instantly elevates communication. Only say what you can stand behind. Don't promise what you can't deliver. Don't speak in absolutes when you feel uncertain. Don't inflate your message to impress. Precision is power. Exaggeration is not. People sense exaggeration immediately. It creates distance. It triggers suspicion. And once trust cracks, it's difficult to repair. Trust grows when your language stays anchored in reality. Precise language shows discipline. Guessing language reveals uncertainty. And people don't follow guesses. They follow clarity. One of the most trustworthy phrases in communication is surprisingly simple. I don't know. It may sound small, but it carries enormous weight. It tells people, this person tells the truth. And when people believe that, they trust everything else you say even more. Honesty doesn't weaken authority, it deepens it. When you acknowledge what you don't know, your credibility rises when you speak about what you do know. Your presence feels more authentic. Your leadership feels grounded. Precision also lives in specificity. Vague statements feel slippery. Specific statements feel solid. Specificity removes guesswork. It makes people feel secure because they know exactly what you mean. People don't want to interpret your message. They want to understand it. Precision does that. Specificity does that. Honesty does that. When you speak precisely, your ideas become concrete. The fog disappears. The emotional static fades. Everything feels cleaner, and clean communication is trusted communication. Think of language like a contract. A vague contract makes people uneasy. A precise one makes people feel protected. Your communication should create that same sense of security. If you want to build trust, remove language that creates distance. Stop saying things you don't fully mean. Stop softening truth out of fear. Stop hiding uncertainty behind confident tone. Stop offering half answers. People don't trust performance. They trust humanity. Precision doesn't mean sharpness. It means accuracy. It means intention. It means saying exactly what you mean, no more, no less. Honesty doesn't mean blunt aggression. It means respectful transparency. It means alignment between words and reality. There is a quiet strength in honest communication. It's steady, calm, grounded. It spreads confidence through the room. It makes people feel they're dealing with someone dependable. Trust grows slowly, but it breaks instantly. That's why precision and honesty must be consistent. They are habits, not moments. People trust patterns, not isolated examples. If you're precise today and careless tomorrow, people notice. If you're honest sometimes and avoidant at others, people sense it. If your clarity fluctuates, trust erodes. Trust requires consistency of language. Precision must become part of who you are. Honesty must live in your voice. Your words must reflect your character every time. When you communicate with precision and honesty, people feel anchored. They feel guided. They feel safe. And safety is where influence grows. You don't need volume. You don't need flair. You don't need perfection. You need accuracy. You need truth. That's what makes your message credible. That's what makes your presence trustworthy. That's what makes your leadership real. Build trust with your words. Build trust with your honesty. Build trust through consistency, because trust is the gateway to influence. And without it, nothing you say will ever truly carry weight. Chapter 8. Use silence as a tool. Silence is one of the most powerful instruments in communication, and also one of the most feared. Most people rush to fill every gap, explain everything, and cover space with sound. But the truth is simple. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. Silence is where words gain weight. It's where meaning sinks deeper. It's the space where presence becomes unmistakable. When you learn to use silence well, your influence multiplies. Most people misunderstand silence. They believe it signals uncertainty. They fear it makes them look unprepared. They assume others will judge them. So they rush to speak, talk over themselves, and drown their message in noise. But strong communicators understand something different. The person who controls silence controls the room. Silence is not empty. It's full of intention, full of meaning, full of power. Holding silence requires confidence. Only grounded people can stay quiet without panic. And when you're comfortable with silence, people feel your strength immediately. When speech has no space, meaning blurs. Fast, non-stop talking feels anxious and unsteady. But when words are framed with pauses, everything changes. Your message lands harder, your clarity improves, your presence strengthens. Silence is the amplifier. It's the frame around the picture. It's the pause between notes that gives music its emotion. Every great speaker understands this instinctively. They don't rush. They don't fear quiet moments. They let silence do part of the work. Silence allows the listener to catch up. It gives shape to your words. It creates tension, depth, and gravity. In a world overwhelmed by noise, digital noise, emotional noise, mental noise, silence stands out. People are used to constant talking, so when someone speaks with measured pauses, it feels intentional, authoritative, refreshing. Silence breaks patterns, and breaking patterns captures attention. When you pause, people lean in. They listen more closely. They anticipate what comes next. Suddenly, your words matter more. But silence isn't only a speaking tool, it's a thinking tool. When you pause before responding, you protect yourself from impulsive reactions. You gain clarity. You regain control. Silence gives your mind time to choose the right words instead of the fast ones. Fast words usually come from fear. Chosen words come from clarity. Imagine being asked a difficult question. Most people panic and start talking immediately, hoping speed will hide uncertainty. But speed exposes anxiety. Speed weakens authority. Intentional silence does the opposite. It says, I'm thinking, I'm not rushed. I care enough to choose my words. People respect that. They trust it. Silence is also critical when delivering key points. If you never pause, listeners don't know what matters most. Everything blends together. Nothing stands out. A pause before a key line builds anticipation. A pause after it creates impact. Silence isn't passive, it's active force. Silence is also one of the strongest tools for emotional control. In tense moments, silence prevents escalation. When someone raises their energy and you remain quiet, they feel their own intensity. When someone reacts emotionally and you respond with calm stillness, they adjust. Silence shifts power from the reactive person to the grounded one. It says, I choose the pace. I'm not entering chaos. I won't be rushed. The quiet person becomes the anchor. Others orbit around them. Silence also reveals truth. When you don't rush to speak, people fill the space. They clarify. They correct themselves. They reveal more than they intended. This is why negotiators, therapists, and experienced leaders value silence so deeply. Silence isn't just space, it's strategy. But silence takes courage. Fear makes people talk. Fear of judgment, fear of misunderstanding, fear of losing control, fear of appearing weak. Here's the paradox. The person least afraid of silence often becomes the strongest communicator in the room. Comfort with silence raises presence. It stabilizes confidence. It shifts your voice from nervous to intentional, and your influence expands without effort. To use silence well, you must change how you see it. Silence is an emptiness. Silence is emphasis. Silence is control. Silence is part of the message. Silence speaks. Silence shapes. Silence stabilizes. People rarely remember everything you say. They remember the sentence that followed the silence. That's where impact lives. When you talk too much, influence fades. When you speak with space, influence deepens. Silence allows you to be felt, not just heard. It invites connection, not just comprehension. If your speaking feels rushed, add silence. If your message feels soft, add silence. If your influence feels weak, add silence. Silence is not the absence of communication. Silence is the amplifier of communication. Use it deliberately. Use it strategically. Use it confidently. When you master silence, people listen to every word you choose to say next. Chapter 9. Read the room and adapt influence isn't only about what you say, it's about when you say it, how you say it, and whether the moment is ready to receive it. You can deliver a perfect sentence, but if the room isn't aligned, it will fall flat. Timing can elevate your message or erase it. Energy can amplify your influence or silence it completely. The ability to read the room is what separates competent communicators from unforgettable ones. It's the difference between speaking to people and speaking with them, between pushing a message and allowing it to land. Here's a truth many never learn. You cannot lead a room you cannot feel. When you ignore the room, your message disconnects. When you misread the room, your message feels off. When you overpower the room, your message becomes unwelcome. But when you tune into the room, its energy, its pace, its emotional temperature, your communication aligns. Alignment creates influence. Every room has an emotional climate. Some feel tense, others open, some are impatient, others skeptical, bored, energized, or guarded. Most speakers ignore these signals and deliver their message like a rehearsed script. But leadership requires responsiveness, not repetition. To read the room, shift your focus from "how do I sound?" to "what do they feel?" Body language speaks first, eyes speak, silence speaks, energy speaks. People communicate long before they use words. When you enter a room, observe before you contribute. Notice posture, breathing, engagement, attention. These details reveal more truth than spoken sentences ever will. Reading the room isn't mind reading, it's awareness. It's emotional intelligence in motion. It's knowing when to push and when to ease off. Some rooms need energy, some need calm, some need honesty, some need reassurance, some need clarity, not charisma. You must speak to the energy in front of you, not the version you planned in your head. This is where many communicators struggle. They cling to the plan even when the moment demands adjustment. But influence doesn't come from sticking to a script. It comes from responding to reality. If attention drops, your message needs tightening. If tension rises, your tone needs grounding. If excitement builds, your conviction should match it. If uncertainty appears, your clarity must increase. The room tells you what it needs if you're listening. Great communicators don't fight the room, they move with it. They adjust tone, pace, volume, and direction to meet the moment. Adaptation is not weakness. Adaptation is mastery. Communication is like surfing. You don't control the wave, you read it. Push against it and you fall. Move with it, you glide. The same applies to influence. Force creates resistance. Awareness softens it. People don't reject messages because they're wrong. They reject them because they feel misunderstood. Reading the room makes people feel seen. Adapting makes them feel respected. And respect opens the door to influence. Energy shifts constantly. It rises, drops, tightens, loosens. Most people miss these changes. Strong communicators adjust in real time. If the room quiets, slow down. If restlessness appears, sharpen your message. If emotions surface, soften your tone. If energy rises, amplify conviction. Reading the room is responsiveness in motion. Sometimes the room needs direction. Sometimes it needs space. Sometimes it needs clarity, sometimes it needs connection, sometimes it needs silence. Influence requires sensitivity, not softness, but awareness. When you enter any room, remember this: the room is already speaking. Your job is to listen before you talk. The best communicators aren't just great speakers. They are exceptional listeners, listeners of energy, emotion, and dynamics. This type of listening allows you to adjust without effort. Your message stays strong, but your delivery becomes flexible. Your presence remains steady, but your approach adapts. People trust communicators who meet them where they are. When you read the room well, something powerful happens. People feel like you're speaking to them, not at them. They feel understood before you continue. Emotional alignment forms, and that's where influence is born. Reading the room also prevents unnecessary conflict. Many disagreements come from poor timing. Many misunderstandings come from missed discomfort. Many failures happen because delivery wasn't adjusted when the moment required it. Often the message isn't wrong, the timing is. When you read the room, timing becomes your advantage. You stop forcing communication. You start guiding it. You move with energy. You lead without resistance. People follow those who understand them. People trust those who sense them. People remember those who adapt to them. Reading the room is a superpower, not because it makes you agreeable, but because it makes you aligned. Aligned with the moment. Aligned with the energy. Aligned with the people. Influence thrives in a speak with awareness, speak with sensitivity, speak with adaptability. Speak like someone who understands the heartbeat of the room. When you can read a room, you can lead it. And when you can lead a room, your influence becomes unstoppable. Chapter 10. Repeat the fundamentals until mastery. Mastery isn't built on advanced techniques, it's built on fundamentals repeated with discipline. The basics practiced consistently and intentionally create more influence than any complex strategy ever will. Great communicators don't chase tricks. They refine the essentials until those essentials become who they are. Here's a truth many avoid. You don't rise to your potential. You rise to your discipline. The fundamentals of communication are simple: clear thinking, strong language, calm tone, intentional structure, emotional control, and awareness of the room. None of these are flashy, none of them impress on their own, but practiced daily, they turn you into someone people trust instantly. Most people want mastery without repetition, confidence without practice, clarity without effort, influence without discipline. But influence is not accidental, it's habitual. Consistency builds mastery, repetition builds skill, and mastery emerges when repetition becomes identity. Look at elite performers, athletes, speakers, leaders. They don't train the hardest things every day. They train the simplest ones over and over until fundamentals feel automatic. Communication works the same way. Clarity sharpens through daily practice. Tone steadies through breath training. Language strengthens through intentional word choice. Structure becomes natural through repetition. Emotional control deepens every time you choose response over reaction. Mastery is repetition made visible. Most people abandon fundamentals too early. They practice once, notice improvement, then move on. But mastery doesn't come from variety. It comes from depth. Depth requires commitment to the same core skills again and again. Repetition doesn't make communication robotic. It makes it reliable. Reliable clarity, reliable presence, reliable authority. That reliability separates leaders from amateurs. Leaders aren't consistent by luck. They're consistent because they respect the basics. Every repetition removes hesitation. Every repetition strips away doubt. Every repetition strengthens internal stability, the foundation of influence. Repetition builds quiet confidence, not the loud kind, but the steady kind people feel immediately. Mastery is rarely dramatic. It's silent, gradual, almost invisible. You don't notice mastery forming, you notice it later when you realize how far you've come. Every expert was once a beginner who refused to abandon the fundamentals. Mastery rewards patience, and patience feels slow, but it's the engine of growth. Small improvements seem insignificant at first, yet over time they reshape your voice, your presence, your influence, and your identity. The basics create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates presence. Presence creates influence. If you want influence that lasts, train consistently. Show up for the fundamentals even when they feel boring. Practice clarity even when you think you're clear enough. Practice tone even when you believe you sound confident. Practice emotional control even when you feel calm. The moment you stop practicing the basics, influence begins to erode. Repetition has another gift. It reveals blind spots. Each return to the fundamentals uncovers something new, a filler word, a rushed moment, a loss of clarity. The fundamentals evolve as you evolve. They meet you at every stage of growth. That's why they never become outdated. The stronger you become, the more the basics matter. Influence isn't built in a single moment. It's built through thousands of small repetitions. Even 1 minute a day, practiced consistently, compounds into something powerful. Small actions, repeated daily, outperform big efforts done occasionally. Mastery becomes inevitable for those who commit to fundamentals. They don't wait for motivation. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They train anyway. Repetition creates internal certainty. Internal certainty creates external influence. Your fundamentals are your anchor. When situations become chaotic, return to them. When pressure rises, they steady you. When stakes are high, they hold you in place. This is why great communicators rarely feel shaken. They trust their preparation. They trust the repetitions that shape them. They don't think about clarity, it's trained. They don't think about tone, it's embedded. They don't think about structure, it's instinct. The fundamentals have become automatic, and automation is the highest level of mastery. When the basics live in your system, your full potential becomes available. You stop second-guessing. You stop hesitating. You stop overthinking. You execute calm, clear, strong, precise. Mastery isn't perfection, it's consistency, it's identity. It's becoming someone who treats the fundamentals as non-negotiable. Repeating the basics isn't a beginner habit, it's a professional habit. It's how you grow, it's how you lead. Repeat the fundamentals until they become your natural state, until clarity, confidence, and influence flow without effort. At that point, mastery is no longer something you chase, it's something you embody. Outro, your voice is your leadership. Every journey of real transformation reaches a moment where the lessons settle, the clarity sharpens, and something shifts internally. This is that moment. You've moved through clarity, authority, precision, honesty, emotional control, silence, structure, adaptability, and discipline. Each principle has reshaped how you communicate, but more importantly, how you show up. Because at the center of this entire journey is one essential truth. When you change the way you speak, you change the way you live. Your voice is not just sound. It's an expression of your inner world. It's how people experience your thinking, your values, your intentions, and your confidence. This work wasn't about improving a technique. It was about refining identity. You've learned that influence is not loud. Influence is not forceful. Influence is not theatrical. Influence is clear. Influence is intentional. Influence is steady. When your mind holds clarity, your voice carries weight. When your tone stays calm, your presence grows powerful. When your words become precise, trust follows naturally. When your direction becomes clear, leadership becomes undeniable. What you've gained here goes beyond methods. You've developed a new way of entering every conversation, a new way of thinking before speaking, a new way of managing the emotional frequency of your voice, a new way of choosing words that matter. You've learned how to stay steady when others lose balance, how to slow down when instinct tells you to rush, how to pause when pressure tries to push you forward, how to adapt when the room shifts, how to speak like someone who knows exactly who they are. But mastery is not a single moment. It's a continuation. Everything you've practiced here strengthens every time you use it. Every conversation becomes a chance to reinforce clarity. Every meeting becomes an opportunity to lead with presence. Every pause becomes a tool for impact. Every decision becomes a moment to choose intention over impulse. The fundamentals are your anchor. Return to them often. Let them steady you. Let them sharpen you. Let them shape your voice into an instrument of real influence. And remember this, your voice is a responsibility. People don't just hear your words. They feel the intention behind them. They sense your clarity. They sense your conviction. They sense your steadiness. When you speak with clarity, you give others clarity. When you speak with honesty, you give others safety. When you speak with strength, you give others courage. When you speak with calm authority, you give others direction. Your voice becomes a place people trust. Your presence becomes something people rely on. Your message becomes a catalyst for action, understanding, and respect. This is the kind of communicator people remember. This is the kind of communicator people follow. This is the kind of communicator who creates change. And now you have everything you need to become that communicator. From this moment forward, every word you speak either reinforces the old version of you or builds the stronger version you've been creating here. You choose with every sentence. You choose with every pause. You choose with every breath. If you want to go deeper, return to the fundamentals. Revisit the chapters. Sit with the moments that challenged you. Repeat the principles until they become instinct. Let repetition become your advantage. The next version of you, the one who speaks with clarity, precision, calm confidence, and influence, is already forming. Not all at once, but through the quiet practices you repeat daily. In the moments where you choose clarity over confusion, calm over urgency, strength over doubt. You're not just learning how to speak, you're learning how to lead. Lead conversations, lead rooms, lead people, lead yourself. Your voice is where it all begins. So carry this final message with you. Speak with intention. Speak with clarity. Speak with strength. Speak like someone who understands that their voice can shape outcomes and move the world forward. This isn't luck. This isn't talent. This is mastery, earned through discipline and choice.